The floor is yours.
Thank you. So my name is Lars Blykom. I'm founder and CEO of Farmable. And I'm going to talk about how we, as a private tool for farmers, fit into the requirements that has been thoroughly explained already. Also what this means in practice to the farmers in the field, in their daily work, and what we think they should do next. First, I'd like to say a few words about Farmable, and I'll define what we do in the next slide. But the short story is that I took over a family farm 10 years ago, and I started to build prototypes for how to manage our own activities on the farm, like the daily activities, and documenting that, planning it, executing it. About 5 years ago, we packaged that into a globally scalable software as a service product together with a venture capital firm in Norway. And since then, we have stopped focusing really on the Norwegian market and focused on bigger agriculture markets around the world. Today, we have approximately 35,000 farms using Farmable as a farm management software. We are available in many different languages, and we have focused on Spain, Germany, and the UK here in Europe, and also on Australia and South Africa, because we wanted to have real engagement activity through the entire 12 months of the year. We didn't have time for winter downtime. So we have a lot of experience now in engaging with real farmers around the world. Now, about how we fit into what the requirements have been explained by CX just now. I want you to focus first on the 4 screenshots in the middle, because this is what we defined as farm management software. This is about facilitating the documentation processes and the planning that the farmer needs to do during their daily work. So we'll try to be really on the phone with the farmer out there in the fields. One of the most important things that they do is plant protection treatments, so spraying. For that, we have calculators that help them mix the tanks correctly, and also to assist them in delegating to different crew members and what machinery to be used. Also, during execution of that task, we help them comply with the product label requirements that are on the products that they actually use. It's typically how many times a year, how much volume, things like that, and HSE requirements, wind limitations during spraying, for example. So in our app, we integrate with weather services and all the things needed to give them warnings and help them comply with the requirements. Then, of course, as an indirect consequence, we have the entire spray log and the fertilizer log for the farm, which in short is the data that is required to be part of the digital field book that has been presented by CX. So that means we have all the 4 screens in the middle and all the features that farmers use related to that. So the only thing we need to do to deliver this service to the farmers in Spain is to connect in the beginning with what David said was the farm registry. So we need to know which farm are the users that sign up with us actually own in Spain. And on screen, the last screen, we need to connect with the field notebook so that we can submit all this data that we collect from the spraying and fertilizer and irrigation jobs directly into the field notebook in Spain. Not going to go deep into the details, but you recognize the first picture here from so these are the SIGPAC fields that were presented. And this is what I mean when we need to connect with the government service to get our users set up correctly. Because the lowest level unit that these agricultural reports is going to be connected to is each of these fields. So we need to know what that means. The authorities in Spain needs to share with us which fields which farmer own, and give us the geoshapes and also the metadata for what's planted there, or what crop category, what variety, what year, and so on. So that's the first step. The second one is that they are very clear, and that's a message also to all the other member states, that when they set up these reporting requirements, it's very, very useful for companies like us that they are as clear as this about what they need. Because this is the JSON file, or a small piece of the JSON file that defines what's a spray job in the digital field book, with all the different parameters, including definitions of what formats are required and what catalog to look up. Like David said, they had created lists of codes for 17 different topics. So this we can look up here and submit these codes to the field notebook. So this JSON file has been available to us for almost the entirety of this year, which has made it very easy for us to prepare and align our features with this. But the short story for us is it fit very well already with the data that we capture. Now, what it means to the farmers, we think that to digitalize and make this easy, they need to change the way that they work at the farm. Because, and there are just a couple of examples of this that I wanted to mention here. The first thing is that typically they will just have a phone call or something with their agronomist. They trust the agronomist very much, and then they will go out and spray. And they will mix their tank as they usually do. And they may take a note or not. And typically they will just reproduce that log before there's an audit or something at the end of the season. So we need them to change that. We need them to start planning in a digital format before they actually go out and do the spray. So that's the first work process change that they need to implement at the farm, and that we focus a lot on when we go and communicate with farmers. Second piece is that when you read the requirements to, like the agronomy parts of the new requirements, they require that a certified agronomist should verify the spray job before they actually go and spray. This is part of an initiative to reduce the usage of chemicals, so that you need somebody to be in agreement with what you're planning to do. So we implement that inside of the work process for the planning, so that the farmer has a chance to ask this agronomist to review this. Back up and before this, this would typically be a best case scenario, a WhatsApp message or a phone call or something. This is not traceable. So in this way that we implement it now, it's fully traceable, who has approved what at what point in time, based on what kind of information. There's also, I think there's a change needed in the way that the farmer is related to their co-ops. Almost every farmer we know is a member of a co-op, and they trust the co-op to do a lot of services for them. Typically, they get agronomy advice for the co-op, and also they get a lot of help to maintain the spray logs. We think that the farmers now need to take a lot of the responsibility for this back. They can always get help, sure, but they are responsible themselves for fulfilling the new requirements that are coming. So we're slightly concerned about some of the work processes in the co-ops as well, that they need to change this, because they cannot really give advice to a batch of farmers, hundreds of them, in one go to go and do a spray job, which is something that they typically do today. That's not compliant with IPM, which is integrated pest management, which the short definition of that is that you cannot go and spray unless you have observed a pest, which means you can't tell 100 farmers to go and spray something. And then the concern is if there are, agronomists or secretaries or people working at the co-op that maintain the spray logs, they are very susceptible to be doing mistakes, right? If they receive just a small scrap message on a WhatsApp, who's responsible for the mistakes they make when they put that into the system? So we just think it's much better that the farmer takes some control of this himself. And then at the end of the day, we think this leads to a massive opportunity. I mean, we are trying to convince the farmers to digitalize these processes even before the new reporting regulations came into practice. So from our perspective, we think the governments are just helping move along something that would have happened eventually anyway, but now it's going to be much faster. So what's above the dotted line here is what's being now kickstarted by CX. So you see that they just require to the farmer what kind of data they need. And in order to deliver that data, all of these farmers in practice need to digitalize their business, which means they need to set up a computer system. They need to make sure that they get the data into that system. And they also need to connect with other stakeholders, such as their agronomy advisors, get them into that system, connect to plant protection product data, which is something that would definitely be a candidate for something like an agricultural data space, because the product label data for all these products is not easily available in a standardized format. Once that's done, that opens up for a lot of opportunities, because if you think about, for example, Global Gap certification of good farming practices, the data that they require is more or less the same as CX is already requiring. So we can just reuse that data and connect that with the Global Gap, a simplified service, lower cost of getting the certificate. And that work is already underway at Global Gap. Same with banks. They can easily get access to whatever data they need to confirm that this farmer is doing a proper job so that they can get the loans that they need, and so on. Lots of examples. I won't go through all of them. I'm almost finished. I'll close up quickly. Yeah. I just wanted to mention that we think that this ownership to the data is very important. It's been discussed a long time in many industries, and we see also in agriculture, companies like John Deere, they claim to own a lot of the data that's being produced at the farm. So we just disagree, and we have implemented it differently so that everything that sits in our systems is owned by our users, the farmers, and we implement everything so that they can control who has access and reuse it, but they never lose the ownership. Even for aggregated data sets, they would have ownership to that. And on the longer term, we aim to let the farmers monetize that data so that they would get paid when they submit data that's being used in a benchmarking exercise or a statistical review or something like this, for example. Yeah, that's just a summary, so I can skip that and close.
If you just here.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, that's fine.
Okay.
It's all good. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lars. Very interesting. Thank you very much. A lot of information. And your last slide was typically the questions that have been dealt through different legal initiatives taken by the Commission, the Data Act, and from the practical point of view, the common data space. So we will see how this thinking will be received.